Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Ram Kevlur. I'm one of the newer charter members of this TiE Mysuru. So some of you may not have even seen me because I'm that new. But thanks to the leadership here, they've given me the opportunity to be the anchor today for what I think is going to be a fantastic 2 hours. As you all know, India is at a very important cusp and inflection point. The last 20 years or so has been about how India has grown digitally as a force to reckon with. And one of the major fulcrums of that growth has been the growth centered around the top 7-8 cities of India. So all of you would agree, right? Be it a Mumbai or a Gurgaon or a Bangalore or a Chennai or a Hyderabad. These cities have played a significant role in taking India onto the podium as far as the digital growth is concerned. Right? But post-COVID, a lot of things have changed. And I think the journey from where we are today at about $3.5 trillion GDP to probably a 5 or a $10 trillion GDP is going to be a very different journey according to me. Largely fostered not by the big cities, but what I popularly call as the emerging cities of India. And a lot of these emerging cities are going to have a lot of startups which are probably going to play a very critical role in this trajectory, right? So we thought, what best way to enlighten ourselves on how this trajectory is going to be, and what is it that startups require in order to be successful in playing a critical role in this trajectory is what we thought should be the conversation today. And for that purpose, we have a very, very interesting guest with us today, the chief guest of the evening, Mr. Ravi Narayan. I just request all of you to just give him a quick round of welcome applause. As I was just having a quick chat with Ravi, he said, Ram, I need only 2 things. 1, tell me how much time I have. 2, make sure the audience is highly engaging. I said, sir, don't worry. The Mysore audience is known for that, as promised by our ED. So my request to all of you is, as you try and get rapturous attention to what is happening, also try and be as engaging as possible to make Ravi's time here as exciting as possible. Before we start the proceedings for the day, I would love our president, Dr. Mahesh, to just come up on stage and share a few welcome words with all of us.
Thank you, Ram. As he indicated, we have an exciting speaker today, Mr. Ravi Narayan. I have got to know him from the last 3-4 weeks. Before that, I didn't know much about him, but started talking to him, met him. So had a good evening where we spent quite a bit of quality time trying to understand each other. So it will be an excellent speech today. What is TiE about? That's the part which I'm supposed to talk about. TiE is a global organization in 14 countries with about 60 chapters and 3,500 charter members and total membership of something like about 10,000 total membership or in excess of that. So TiE started in 1992 in Silicon Valley and now has spread all over the world. In Mysuru, we started in 2018 and we have been going pretty good. We are meeting once a month, organizing these meetings, making sure that everybody attends and gets something out of these meetings. What do? We do 5 important things, which we call it as the pillars of TiE. What is that? We educate you on what to be an entrepreneur, what are all the things which you have to take care in being a good entrepreneur in this world. Number 2, we try to help you with mentoring. We try to walk you through the whole entrepreneurship program in terms of your journey with our wisdom of the charter members, trying to talk to you and to make sure that you get that benefit. Number 3, we provide you the networking, where these kind of programs where people like Ravi, who could come in, talk to us and network, provide his network and contacts and make sure that we are connected. Number 4, essentially investing into the startups. That's what he's going to be talking about today. And the number 5, through our affiliates or through our contacts, incubation facilities for you. That's what we do in terms of the TiE. Thank you very much for all of you to come in here. We are going to have a wonderful session with Ravi Narayan. I will let somebody introduce him in detail so that we all know what his background is and we can appreciate. And Ravi, thank you very much for taking the time and coming here. We want to have a wonderful session with you. Please get engaged. Please ask questions. Please answer his questions so that we have a two-way communication and it will be much more interesting and engaging for all of us. Thank you.
Dr. Mahesh, for being very crisp with your welcome address. I don't want to steal the thunder from Anil, our associate member, who's going to actually come and introduce Ravi. But for people who already are well entrenched into the startup ecosystem, Ravi is like what Dhoni is to cricket. Ravi is to startups like what Dhoni is to cricket, is what I would say. He's done some very, very transformative work in the startup ecosystem over the last 10 years, probably even more, and has played a significant role in getting enterprises, government, and startups together in various ways. Of course, we'll get to hear a lot from him on how startups that really want to grow can seek funding in different forms. But to try and understand the context from which Ravi is coming, I would love our associate member Anil, who's himself riding the startup wave pretty aggressively, to come and introduce him for a few minutes.
You almost covered everything I had in my script. So, anyways, ladies and gentlemen, today I'm going to introduce Mr. Ravi. Today we have an honor of welcoming a luminary in the world of entrepreneurship and innovation, Mr. Ravi Narayan. As a senior advisor to Startups Genome India, Ravi is a beacon of leadership and vision in the venture catalyst and startup accelerator domain. Over the last decade, Ravi has dedicated his expertise to fostering entrepreneurship across the globe, advising both corporations and governments on launching successful startup and innovation programs. His contributions have not only sparked digital transformation, but have also bridged the gap between the disruptive technology and the global markets. Ravi's journey includes co-founding Microsoft for startups, thereby establishing a formidable presence in major tech hubs around the world, including China, India, Israel, and Europe, and US, in fact. Under his leadership as a CEO of T-Hub, Hyderabad saw the rise of the world's largest innovation campus. Furthermore, as a Chief Innovation Officer of Telangana State, Ravi was instrumental in nurturing diverse innovation ecosystem. With over 30 years of entrepreneurial experience, Ravi excels in building high-performance teams and guiding companies from their inception to the growth and successful exits, both across India and US. Ravi's passion extends beyond business achievements. He explores the integration of ancient wisdom into entrepreneurial practices for a balanced and fulfilling life. His tenure as a member of board of trustees at TiE Global has seen significant contribution to global engagement programs, emphasizing his influence on policy development and startup ecosystem growth. So let's please join welcoming Mr. Ravi Narayan, a true pioneer, mentor, and a visionary leader. Welcome.
How many of you are entrepreneurs here? All right, half the room. How many of you want to become entrepreneurs? Just that many? Oh, okay. And how many of you want to become investors? All right, very good. So this is the way things. Oh, you take. Thank you. Yeah. So this is the makings of a very strong ecosystem. There are entrepreneurs who are willing to get away from being job seekers to actually becoming job givers. That's very, very, very exciting. This is something that, our generation could have never thought of. Our parents wanted us to become engineers or doctors, take a secure job, within 4 or 5 years get married, have children. Every single step of the way was all about financial security. And therefore, taking these chances, taking these risks was not something that, we were very excited about. They were excited about. But then we did it anyway, and some of us have chosen that path and succeeded in the path. Some have chosen and not succeeded, but they actually have a lot to offer us as well at the same time. While we traverse that journey, what we also realize that it makes you reach deep into your soul and understand who you really are. What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? Who are you ultimately? And the whole entrepreneurial journey makes you into a better human being altogether. And that's the reason I feel that entrepreneurship as a profession, entrepreneurship as a personal journey is always very, very fulfilling. So today the topic is funding for startups. So let me understand from you, what are the kinds of questions you would like to get answered during this, this session today? So give me a sense of questions that some of our entrepreneurs have. You want to share some questions with me?
Starting from how do we connect with the investors in first place, or how do we kind of validate? And we all got it married the business that we love it, and the biggest challenge is getting to the network of experts who can actually validate our business or our business. So that's one challenge that I personally found the last few years that I have been through this journey. Secondly, again, coming to the TiE series, the moment I say I'm from Mysuru, I think I've been rejected several times. It has been very painful, but it's one of the facts that I have come across. Yeah, so these are some of the journeys that I would like to seek some support.
Great. Okay. Yeah. How much of? Debt. Yeah. Okay, great. One more?
Ravi, starting from bootstrapping to getting to an MVP to scaling, what are the different funding options available for startups?
Yep. Sure.
Sometimes bootstrapping itself is difficult. You may have a great idea, but you just don't have the money, especially coming from a tier 2, tier 3 setup. You'd like to.
Yeah.
Being a student and aiming to become an entrepreneur, how do we decide at which point our company or our idea is ready to be pitched? And how do we, make a proper valuation of the company without even because what we do is we have zero experience on the field, being students, and we just take things and evaluate whatever our idea is. So how do we get into the ground and how do we start taking money?
Great. Thank you. Okay, last one. Now I'm getting a sense.
Without getting a break-even, why to take investment from XYZ, people, and then go before public offer. So it has become a trend these days. Without having a break-even, they will go for investment from one guy, and again they will escalate the valuation, and then they will take the investment, and then finally they will go for public offering. So is it ethical or what?
Okay. All right. So please don't stop yourself. I will talk about a few things. I have a presentation, and purpose of the presentation is to kind of give you a framework. So I won't go through the presentation in a great detail today. What I have requested Mahesh to do is just send it to you via email. And if you are a TiE Charter member, you get it free, but otherwise you become a charter member, sorry, not charter member, associate member, charter member, whatever, please be part of TiE and therefore, get the full benefit of what all we have to offer. So this is our offering from TiE to you. Okay, how many of you are not part of TiE yet? Are you all members of TiE? Not yet? Okay. So is this your first visit to a TiE meeting? No? You have come here before? Wonderful. You should get more of your friends to come here. So let me tell you a little bit about Mahesh. Dr. Mahesh already spoke about TiE to you in a way, but let me impress upon you the reason TiE is important for you, and it's especially important for Mysuru because TiE can play a pivotal role in your lives, pivotal role in Mysuru's lives, and that's why it's important. So let me tell you my personal story. So when I was doing my second startup, this was in Washington DC, I did not know about TiE. I had just left my job at IBM and I used to go downstairs to the basement of my house and I would be, doing my phone calls, making presentations, writing emails and so on and so forth. And at that same time, my wife had delivered twins. And my father-in-law usually keeps visiting every summer. So he came that summer and then he saw that I had left my job. And he had two grandchildren for whom where the income is going to come from was not very sure. My wife was working, of course. So he was very concerned. So he called up one of his friends in Silicon Valley and said, my son-in-law is doing something very strange. By the way, my father-in-law is a professor at IIT. So he didn't know anything about startups. For him, startup means what? So it was that kind of a mindset to actually having come to a place where his son-in-law is just being very, very irresponsible. And, one thing he would see that I was working very hard, that he acknowledged. But at the same time, I was also showing up properly for breakfast, properly for lunch, properly for dinner. And then I would work beyond dinner to like 3 o'clock in the morning and then wake up at 8 and start the journey all over again. So he was very concerned. So he called up this person in Silicon Valley and that person said, you know what, there's a TiECon happening the next 1 week. Ask Ravi to show up there. And my father-in-law came to me very gingerly and said, my friend says that you should come to TiECon. I said, what is TiECon? He says, just trust this guy. He knows what he's saying. Just show up. I said, okay, Anna, just let me look it up on the internet. So there I saw the usual stuff, how to build teams, how to raise funding, how to protect your intellectual property, usual stuff. And I was saying, okay, I'll go and listen to all these things, but what will I get out of it? Today, what I am grappled with is I want to know how to build a good business plan. I am grappling with raising money. I am grappling with getting more customers. None of those topics are actually written in this agenda of the TiECon. So what am I going to get out of it if none of these questions are being answered? So anyway, that Friday, at that time TiECon was on a Saturday and a Sunday, half of Sunday, because they didn't want to intrude into the working day a week. It was not big enough. TiE was not big enough at that time to say, okay, we will do it on a weekday, you guys show up and pay money for it. So anyway, so Friday night, this person calls again and says, is your son-in-law showing up? And my father-in-law was a little, I think, taken aback, saying, okay, now what am I going to say? I've told him, he's not agreeing to go, so I don't know what to do. He says, give the phone to him. So the phone was given to me, and the person on the other side side says, I'm Suhas Patil. Do you want to become a successful entrepreneur? I said, sir, yes, of course, I want to be a successful entrepreneur. So I'll see you tomorrow, okay? So I said, oh, really? Tomorrow I can't. You know, he said, no. If you want to be a successful entrepreneur, you show up. So then I called up my co-founders because all of us had pooled the initial money. 1/3 was mine, 1/3 was another, and 2 co-founders. All of us had put money. So I was spending their money as well when I was going to Silicon Valley. I lived in Washington DC, so there was a 3 hours ahead, advantage I had. So anyway, very early morning, I took a flight. After my co-founder said, "ठीक है, just go. If this person is calling you and saying to come over, go." So I went and I reached there by 11 o'clock and then drove down to Santa Clara and started attending TiECon. At that time, TiE was a small organization and there were people like Kanwal Rekhi, Gururaj Deshpande and others who came over because Suhas said, here is this guy who just showed up because I convinced him last night. And they all came and said, great, thanks for coming. What can we do to help you? And I have never heard that from anybody. And especially people that I have only read about on the net and said, these people coming up to me and saying, Ravi, what do you want? And this is the kind of, help that was being given to these people. That's what you will continue to get because that's the same culture of TiE that continues everywhere, including Mysuru. But even beyond that, I attended only half of Saturday because I had already lost time traveling that Saturday morning. So half of Saturday there was a dinner and then half of Sunday, and after which I came back. But suddenly, having spent 24 hours with like-minded people, I began to speak a very different language. Valuation, I could understand it not just intellectually, but emotionally. It meant something to me. I could relate to it in a very different way. I could relate to, bargaining for valuation. Somebody asked, how do I value my company, right? I knew exactly how to do that. I knew how to talk about, building teams. And after all that, understanding and speaking the jargon and so on and so forth, within about 2 months of me coming back from TiECon, I had raised $500,000. Within 4 months of me coming back from TiECon, I had raised 2 million more, so 2.5 million now. And a year since that, another $12 million. So almost $13.5 million I raised within 1.5 years of me attending TiECon. I wouldn't credit TiECon for that, but what has happened because of my mingling with people of similar background, in the similar parts of their journey, something changed in my mind. I could now relate to the problems that my startup was facing in a very different way. And also know that these problems were not my problems alone, unique to me. It was shared by everybody, and therefore we could all, understand how to go about doing it and solve it for ourselves. So that is the mindset that completely changes. So as much as you can, non-TiE members at the moment, become TiE members and be part of this ecosystem, the more you learn from it. In fact, what you will find is, while an entrepreneur is so bent on just making their startup successful, you'll find the same entrepreneurs extremely open to actually helping other entrepreneurs as much. They want not just their success, they want everybody else to succeed. And that's a very, very important trait of an entrepreneur that we have seen. And that is something that was the culture of TiE. TiE was started by successful entrepreneurs to say, we shouldn't be the only ones who are successful. We want other people to succeed as well. And that's how TiE was created. And that continues even today. So that's the reason I think you should all look at doing this. My father-in-law made a panic call, and that's what got me into TiE. And I've been here for 24 years now. So So as far as funding is concerned, usually what happens is startups, entrepreneurs feel it's their birthright to go get money. Why? Because they have taken a chance in their lives. They've given up a job. Money is not being earned. Therefore, they want money source to be opened up somewhere else. They think that's the logical way of doing it. And sometimes I say, well, that is, money is not necessarily your end. It is a means to an end. If your end is exciting, you will make sure that you are able to enroll, you can excite several other people to join your journey and become part of the journey, be it your customers, be it your investors, be it your mentors, whoever. They all come because you have painted a fantastic vision out there, and this is what you're going after. That is the excitement that you're creating, and that's what they relate to, and that's what they want to be a part of. Just saying I have a great business plan, put it in front of people and say, okay, it's time to pay money now. Make this a fundable startup. Doesn't work that way. So usually, and Srini knows this, Srini was part of my Microsoft accelerator program back in Bangalore. What we start doing when we start a startup engagement is to say, ask them, how many customers have you spoken to? Lots of times I have found, much to my disappointment, a lot of people will say, we are not ready to talk to customers. We have to first build the product. And I say, well, that's not how it works, boss. There's a very good way of building very good startups without having written a single line of code, without having a single product to demo. It is your ability to understand what is it that you're trying to build the product for. If you spend enough time and figuring that out, then you'll build the right product. Now, what does this mean? People will say, I'm going to do something that when I was at Microsoft, they were doing such a shabby job of. It was running so slowly, they were pricing it so high. I can do it at 1/10 the price and 10 times faster. I should go do a startup myself. Okay, is that a good enough reason for you to leave a good company and start something of your own? Maybe, we are not sure. But if you want to go and speak to some people who you think will potentially buy this product from you, ask them, will you do it? You will get a response. Yes, no, maybe. So that is what you do to validate. There are no experts. Mentors are mentors. Certain people are working in certain industries. But the ultimate expert for you is your potential customer. If you don't speak to enough of them and start building the product right away, you will be building a solution for which there may be no problem at all. Right? Just because you have a hammer, everything looks like a nail, is what they say, right? So that's what you want to avoid. You want to speak to as many people as you can and validate that indeed they have a problem. Now, that's only the first part of the process. The second part of the process is, okay, they have the problem, but how intense is it? Is it so intense that they are willing to pay you for it? If they are saying, okay, it's intense, but oh, you want to charge me for it? No, then I don't want it. Then again, you don't have a product. Right? Or they will say, okay, I may want to pay for it, but all my data is sitting one place. I used to do this in a certain way. Yes, I understand it was a very little kludgy, little inefficient, but to change my ways and start using your product, boss, will be hard. My user behavior has already been set in certain way. So I don't want to make all these changes so much. So there is inertia, which may still mean that your product will not be successful because of inertia, right? Your product may be not successful because there is no demand. Your product may not be successful because they are not willing to pay money. Your product may be not successful because they are not, there is inertia, right? And then the fourth one, just because your product is 10 times faster, it is 1/10 cheaper, or rather, cheaper by 1/10, all that, right? They may still say, you know what, it's Microsoft at the end of the day. Do I really want to change? Especially in large companies. There used to be a saying in the US, if it is IBM, don't screw around, just buy it, right? There's a brand name. You won't lose your job. If you put your neck on the block and say, no, I'm going to buy this from this startup. Tomorrow it doesn't work, you lose your job. So there, nobody wants to take a chance. Little bit of inertia again, right? Brand name, recognition, inertia. So I think this is absolutely the most essential thing that you have to do, right? We did stakeholder development in Microsoft. So that is very, very important for you to do the validation. So once you have done the validation, you think you are on to something, right? Then, there is a market, there's a product, and what we call as a product market fit. That's the whole idea. And then you get into the whole funding aspect of it. Now, philosophically, any funding comes at a price, right? So you have to be clear that if you want to pay a price, then you have to start looking for funding. But the more time that you push off funding to later and later and later, the better off you are, because you are in better control of your situation. The product is a little bit more advanced. You have potentially customer validation of a revenue kind, right? So all of these things will make a fantastic difference in the way you pitch, the way you are articulate, the way you are clear about your stuff, and at the same time, the confidence shows through. Because at the end of the day, it's negotiation. Valuation is just negotiation, right? You have a stronger position in your negotiation. So you get into this whole thing a little later, right? So that's the way you want to kind of look at yourself and say, okay, how far can I go before I actually start raising the funding? Now, there are several businesses. I'm sure you can look it up on the internet and you'll find several very successful global brands that have raised no money and yet become very successful. That's also possible to do. The only reason people are so hyped up about VCs and stuff like that is, one, because media makes a big deal of it. And everybody says, oh my God, look at that. They raised this much money, right? And they say, well, that I think is my birthright. I am an entrepreneur. He was an entrepreneur. He raised money. I should raise money too. But really, you don't necessarily, get to raise the money just because you're an entrepreneur. You have to show that there is something that is of value to them, right? So in that process, what you'll find is you have other options too. There are ways in which you can actually raise only small amounts of money and still become very profitable, and then you say, okay, I'm done. I don't need to raise any more money. You don't need to necessarily raise more and more money. The only reason this whole venture capital thing was even created in the first place is because people said, what you have today has the ability to make it a huge company in a very, very short period of time, because there is a market waiting for you to go grab it as quickly as possible. They call it land grab, right? If there is a land grab out there, you want to be the one to grab as much land as possible, market share as possible. You are in a tearing hurry, and there are VCs who are in a tearing hurry, so you take them along. But if it's possible for you, the market is not going to be changing very much and there are not too many players, there is no need for you to grow any faster than maybe the organic growth that your startup already affords you, right? So I'm just saying it's a very deliberate decision for you to whether you want to take money or not based on the kind of business you're building, right? There are a sector of companies called SMEs, small and medium enterprises, right? They are doing wonderfully well. They don't raise VC money. They are profitable. They are doing some fantastic work. They're contributing to creating jobs, creating a tax base. They contribute the most to GDP today in India. They are doing okay. They don't need VC money. So therefore, this whole hype that is there about VC money is very, very much something that you need to be cognizant of. If you feel that there is a good startup that is going to be profitable anyway, and it's not it growing by leaps and bounds very fast, is really not going to get you anywhere any faster, don't have to raise VC money, right? So that's one concept that I would like you to understand when I go through this presentation. The second thing is about what is the price you pay for this one. So if it is a grant, if you really do need money, you take grants. Grant doesn't take away your equity. So as much as you can, if you really are building something deep tech, as in something that can be protected through intellectual property, something that can create a defensive moat between you and the other people, then there's a very good chance now we have a good debt ecosystem, grant ecosystem in the country today. There's grants available from organizations such as DST, Department of Science and Technology. There are grants from BIRAC in the life sciences spaces. There is grants that are made from Startup India. So all of these things are possible. So if it is really truly defensible technology that you're building, look at grants as a way to make that happen. It's the least expensive. Thereafter, you could also say, okay, if you're already doing some revenue, is there any what you call debt options, as in loans? If you can take a loan, be able to service the loan, and thereafter return the loan, that's again cheaper. It doesn't dip into equity of your company. The last option for you is equity. That's the most expensive, because at the end of the day, you only have 100% equity of a company. You can't give away more than that. So as you give away more and more, the lesser and lesser you have, the lesser your employees have. The ability for you to get that impetus going for the entire company is smaller and smaller. Investors having more and more, and the pressure therefore on you is also more and more. So all of the reasons for that, equity is not necessarily the first option that you should look at. But people think that's the only option. From the get-go, they want to give up 15%, 30%, 50%, and they start going, and then suddenly you find that you don't have much to give the next time around when you really need the money, right? So look at that from that standpoint. There are options, then you just start building from there. Okay, so with that prelude, I will get into the presentation. Anything else you want me to cover? Yeah.
One question. Of course, equity chips away ownership of the company, and you think that's probably the last option to go after. But debt also brings a lot of cash flow commitments, repayment, etc.
True.
So what kind of startup should look at debt? Because sometimes at early stages you may not have the revenue flowing in.
Correct.
Right. So how would you?
So the debt may not be even an option at that point in time. But there are revenue-based debt instruments. There are non-collateral debt instruments also now being offered from some of the banks. So not very much, about 1 to 2 crores is what they will make available. But that's at a slightly later stage. You're right. Okay, so just to walk you through where we are, I think these are things that you already know. These are the things that people talk about in economic times and Mint and all that. But I want to point you. You think the pointer is working? No? Huh? Where's the pointer? Oh, too bright. Huh? Okay. Anyway, so we have some very interesting numbers in India today. We went from a stopping start in 2006 to 2024, about 18 years. We have come to these kinds of numbers. So there's a tremendous amount of growth in India. A lot of this growth happens in Bangalore, in Delhi, in Mumbai, to some extent in Chennai and Hyderabad. But also what we are also seeing as a trend is a lot more interests are now being shown in the tier 2 cities as well, because a lot of companies feel the ability for them to build companies in India in the tier 2 cities is much higher. At the same time, if you are solving problems for India, typically tier 2 cities are the best places to build these kinds of things. If you're building for a global market, it's one thing. Sitting in Bangalore, in Delhi, Mumbai is one thing to do. But if you're solving something for India, it could be B2B, B2C. Both are best done from tier 2 cities. A lot of those monies are now starting to move to tier 2 cities as well. Okay, but these are primarily what you see are the numbers for all of India. So we have come to the 68,000 startups in India already, and these are tech startups. Now some of you may be impact startup entrepreneurs as well. So it doesn't count some of that. Okay. We have about 56,000 were actually 5,600 were funded startups between 2014 and 2023. I'm sure it is much more than that. The good news for me is this number, because as much as this is big, this also should be big. That's when the whole flywheel starts going together. So if you are able to produce more and more returns for the investors, more investors would want to come in and invest into the ecosystem, right? So we are beginning to see. I don't know if you remember, Srini, but we were actually trying to make the first set of acquisitions happen. There was a Little Eye Labs that we sold to Facebook, and then we said, oh my God, now we have liquidity in India. That was 2013, 2014. That was the beginning of showing liquidity to investors. Otherwise, there was no liquidity. People were putting money in, and it was just an pregnant ecosystem. Nothing was getting delivered. It was all sitting there. Now we are beginning to see some of this. IPOs are also beginning to happen. A whole lot of acquisitions happened with Flipkart wanting to beef up their technology. They bought a bunch of companies. Then there was also this in between something called acqui-hires. Have you heard of acqui-hires? Acqui-hires is where you actually acquire a company not for the technology, but for the people. If there are some very smart set of people who have come and built something absolutely phenomenal, then that demonstrates. It's like they have done a hackathon for say 2 years and shown that they can hack really well, and they are the best candidates to be acquired into a large company. So Little Eye Labs was actually an acqui-hire. They were hired for the people that came into Little Eye Labs. So anyway, so these are the things. So the dynamics is to show this and this more and more, and we at Startup Genome call it a ecosystem value. There's a notion, how much of this divided by that is the ecosystem value. How much ecosystem is creating as value for investors, for entrepreneurs, is a true measure of how vibrant the ecosystem is. So these are some numbers. We are basically showing you that angel investment in 2023 is about 5.5K. Very few compared to what we can really do in India today. But the good news is we are projecting that there will be more and more angel investors coming into the system by 2030. And it should be that way, because at the end of the day, these are the people that are the very bottom of the investment pyramid. The more and more of these people are there, the higher the pyramid can be built. Then the VCPs don't really build up so much. They're only going to double between now and then, which is fine. As it is, I think there is a lot of money that is still not being spent into the startups, invested into startups today. So that's okay. I think they can, even if they only double, that's fine. But this goes up to almost 3 times, which is great. Okay, so there is also a whole lot of other things that are there. You can read it up when I send you the presentation. Okay. So we are seen as the 3rd largest ecosystem behind US and China. So you can see we have a long ways to go. If you see $2.5 trillion in US goes into total funding, whereas we have only 141 billion so far. So we have a long ways to go. And China has 816, and I think it was very hot at one time. It was going to go almost catch up with US, and now it has gone down quite a bit. In terms of unicorns, we are not doing too badly as compared to USA, 110 already. But the interesting thing here also is the 3-year investor journey, when the entire world was going through a whole lot of consternation. Why is it that we are not getting, good companies, not investments were being made? You still saw that there was 37% investor growth in India versus 2% in China and 13% in USA. So it's actually still a very healthy ecosystem in India today, and continues to be so. We are coming out of that. There are a lot more interesting exits happening in the next few months. Okay. As you can imagine, in terms of the 10 most funded startup ecosystems in India today, you have enterprise tech is the largest, and then you have e-commerce. This is a very interesting flip. For the longest time in India, we were only excited about B2C startups, e-commerce startups. Flipkart led the way, SoftBank came into the picture, Tiger Global came into the picture. Lots of wonderful things happened, and just things took off. The B2B startups, the enterprise tech startups, were slow. They were like a lumbering elephant in behind. They were raising money slower and smaller amounts. But now they are raising more money than the B2C startups, which is a very good sign for the Indian startup ecosystem, because these are the guys who are solving hard problems, taking a larger risk, because B2C can change quickly or die. But here, these guys don't even know if they're going to succeed or not succeed for a very long time. And therefore, if VCs are putting in more and more money, it's a good sign. Lots of things going on here, but there are a bunch of VCs and PEs, corporate CVCs, accelerators, incubators, angel syndicates. So I guess a lot of you should be looking at the very bottom here. There's Indian Angel Network, there's BITS, Hyderabad Angels, Let's Venture, Angel List. All of these are doing some incredible work in all the ecosystems out there. Yep. So, I was associated with Hyderabad Angels, I am associated with Chennai Angels. So, that complaint that you have, oh, I am from Mysore, used to be the complaint. So, they came together and they started investing and they created a brand that we will do this for a while. But, it takes a little bit of time to make that work, but now it's taken on. Chennai Angels is doing extremely well, Hyderabad Angels is doing extremely well. So, I think it is possible for us to get the ecosystem to do more of this, and it will take some time to get there. Okay, so these are some of the funds that put money directly into startups. These are the funds that do some of that, but at the same time they also invest in some of these funds. So, these are the family offices or LPs. So, if you imagine that these guys are the ones that have all the money, yes they do, but it's not their money, it is somebody else's money that they are putting to work, right. These are professionals that have taken money from companies like this to actually put it into startups. And then there's a new instrument called venture debt. And this usually gets unlocked only when you have VCs and PEs coming in, right? What is this? So, if you have a requirement of say $10 million, or let's say just say 25 crores you want. So, if you break up that 25 crores and say, okay, if I want to see what is the use of this 25 crores, let's say 5 crores just goes into capital expenditure. You want to buy computers, you want to make some, capital expenditure, and that's 5 crores. And the other 20 crores is actually what you require to build the company to the next level, build the product, do your marketing, get your next set of customers, all that. That is what your venture money will be for. The money that comes from here, the equity will go for that, and you raise the debt and do the capital expenditure part. So, 5 crores can be from venture debt, 20 crores comes from the VC. So, suddenly you are giving up 20% less of your equity to fund your 25 crores. 20 crores is what you really get from the VCs, 5 crores comes from a venture debt. But the thing is, these people actually want to come at the heels of a venture funding. They don't want to come in directly into you. Only when there is a VC that has given you a term sheet and ready to put in money, when they know that 20 crores is secure, they put the 5 crores, right? So, they are using the VCs to actually provide them the guarantee that the company is going to take off. So, their capital expenditures, financing is not going to be, in isolation. Okay. So, are you getting a hang of what this entire landscape looks like? Yeah. Okay. But most of us hear a lot about these and these a lot. We may not even be there yet, right? But this is what we should be really looking at and seeing how we can actually take our companies to the next level using these organizations, right? The last two, accelerators, incubators, and angel networks and syndicates. Okay. For us, this is much, much later. And this is what gets your imagination, gets you very upset when you don't get your money. But these are the people who actually can make a difference in your journey right away. Okay. So, the good news is more than 50% of the investors in Indian startups is angels today, which is it's a good thing. At least people are coming in, and out of that comes the the next round of funding, the next round of funding, and the next round of funding, and all that. Okay. Okay. So, let's just go through these this thing, the technical terms. Bootstrapping. How many of you know what bootstrapping is? Yeah. Okay. For those who don't know, it is where you don't take any money from anybody. You're just putting in your own money and you're taking it as far as you can without taking any money from a, so that's bootstrapping. Now, there is also government grants that we spoke about. Government grants will give it to you because you're doing something meaningful. They want to add to this. Even in Karnataka, we have something called Elevate that happens every year. Elevate and various other sister things. Those are all grants. You get them, and I don't think you get them all in one tranche. You get it in different tranches, but you have to show that you actually are making progress, and then you get the next tranche, and all that. Then there's crowdfunding. It's not become very popular yet, but you can do some amount of crowdfunding to get some of these startups going. Angel investors. So angel investors, I want to spend a little bit of time on this. So when I was at Telangana TiE Hub, we spent a lot of time cultivating angel investors in a city, in Hyderabad, in Nizamabad, in Warangal and all that. And we said, there are lots of people with money, but they just don't understand startups. So how do we demonstrate to them that this is a possibility? Some people say, there's an ROI I want. See, that's the mindset people have. Now, some of these startups may not have an ROI, but they still have a potential to not just return the money, but return the money multifold. How do you understand this asset class? So we spent a lot of time educating people to say, okay, find this as an interesting possibility for you. It may not be a big part of your, your portfolio. It may be 2-3%, but still consider this. It's a high risk, but it's also possible for high reward. So cultivating angel investment is important. For you entrepreneurs, who are angel investors? Angel investors are people who are not just putting money just to get you going. They also are people with sufficient expertise in the area that you are coming from. So if you go back to some of the angel investment companies here, a lot of these are actually professionals who are working in various different companies. They're still working, but they have maybe 20 lakhs they are putting away into an investment, and 10 lakhs and so on and so forth. So not only are they bringing in the money, but they also have the expertise of what you're looking for. They actually want to give that expertise to you as much as they want to give you the money. So you should actually take it as a package deal. Plus, in addition to the expertise, they also have connections. So let's say you want to be connected to some customer somewhere. There's a good chance they may have that connection too. So what I've seen a lot of entrepreneurs make the mistake of, you say, I want the money, now leave me alone. Then you're actually, wasting that opportunity of bringing this person into your fold. Because they bring much more than money. In fact, the 10 lakhs that they've given you is probably 1/10 of the value they can bring you. So one thing is, a lot of entrepreneurs, what they do is they become so engrossed in their day-to-day stuff that they forget to come out and look at the broader picture. That broader picture sometimes comes from an angel investor, because they are not worried about day-to-day, oh, I am fighting this GST issue, I am fighting the issue of hiring this, I don't have this engineer, or that customer has a problem, I have not fixed his bug, whatever. You're locked down, but there is somebody who has got an overview and saying, boss, you're losing perspective here. Let's keep making progress. Here is this customer, you should be talking to him. This is the next customer you should be addressing. So this is what the angel investors do. So first of all, take the full value that you can get from these people. They are enormously networked people. And at the same time, also learn the governance from them. Sometimes what happens is, when you have taken the money and you're not shown progress, there's a very good chance that you will want to say, till I make progress, I will not talk to this person. I've seen a lot of angel investors feel frustrated that they put the money in and they are not able to get even just a regular annual financials. So don't do that. I think it's best for you to share bad news with the angel investors first. They can actually help you a lot. There's no reason to say, till I get good news, I will not talk to the angel investors. So look at it that way, because later on when you have a board, right, whether you're named Ravindran or not, you still want to make sure that you are talking to the board and telling them the bad news as well, right? So that's something that all of you should really keep in mind. It's a completely symbiotic relationship. They have a lot to offer you and you have a lot to offer them, because these are people who want to solve different problems. They are solving some problem in their corporate capacity. They will solve very different problems with you. They are looking for that fulfillment as well. Then of course there's venture capital, and then there is loans, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. Okay, so this is the journey. Somebody asked me about the journey, right? So you are bootstrapping here, then you go into friends and family. So these are people that will invest in you primarily because you are saying, you know, I'm your son, I'm your cousin, I'm your whatever. Sometimes I'm your husband, I'm your wife, please pay, that's all they know. They just know you and they say, okay, I want to give them a boost. They don't know what your business plan is. They don't know what technology you're building. This is a relationship thing. So this is where you start off with. Then you go into angels. Then you have seed funding that happens. And then later on you have venture capital. So if you can see in the gray, there's inception, prototype, rollout, growth, expansion, and maturity, right? So this is kind of the way this whole journey is. So when I was doing my startups, for example, if I raised Series A, I said, okay, I'm done, I'm golden. But then there is also a Series B. And then you think, oh, Series B, no, there is a Series C. So this is the way things go about, and actually saying, okay, things are not getting easier, by the way. Only things get harder and harder as you go to the right. You may have more money to play with, but you also have more responsibility and you have larger problems to solve. Okay. So commensurate with this, I just wanted to show you what happens here. We have, in the very early stages, I said it's all about friends and family. They just know you as a person. They want to bet on you as a person. So they don't care about technology, whether you're building the right technology or not. There's no market, execution, finance. All the risks of the company are not addressed, but people want to just give you the money. That's what they are doing. The next one is where you have a prototype. So you have something to show, something to demonstrate to some people saying, hey, this is what I'm thinking of building. So let's say you go back to the customers that you spoke to in the very beginning and come back and say, here is something that is working as a prototype. What would you like? It may not be extremely well presented. UI UX is not done. It's looking clunky or whatever. It doesn't matter. But the functionality is working, and that's what people can see. At that point in time, it's not green, but it's yellow. Some amount of work has happened. You mitigated the technology risk. Okay. Market risk remains, execution risk remains, finance risk remains. It's okay. But you raised the money, you have not raised a lot of money. So here you may have raised maybe 10 lakhs, 15 lakhs, 20 lakhs, right? But here you may have raised maybe 25 lakhs, 30 lakhs, whatever. But you're not giving up too much. And these are all equity, by the way, right? Investors. So by the time you come here, you want to be sure that you are at a point where you have that negotiating power. You have built something. Technology is working well. You have demonstrated it's working. It's not something that I'm going to work sometime later. It is working now. Market risk is there because you have some POCs. Somebody is using it. Somebody is happy with it. They may be paying you for it. They may not be paying for it. It's okay. But the customers are saying, I like this. So there is some demonstration of acceptance by the market, right? So as you keep going, what you're seeing with each one of these, more and more turns green, more and more turn yellow, less and less of reds. So the less of reds you have, the better off you are, right? So that's the whole idea. So people in the technology, in the investment jargon, have you mitigated technology risk? Have you mitigated market risk? Have you mitigated execution risk? Execution risk is basically you as a team, you as a founding team, you as a management team. Have you been able to demonstrate that you can work together and make things happen? And then finance risk is, are you able to continually raise money, be it equity, be it debt, be it loans, be it grants, to actually continue to grow the company. So that's what this is about. Okay, so this is a telling story. When I was building, if I only got to the next stage, I was happy. And then only to realize that, oh my God, there's so much more to be done. So this gives you the entire life cycle of how this startup journey is going to be. Okay, so we spoke a little bit about grant options. So you should consider these grant options. There are options that are given by state governments today, and there are options that are granted by central government. In the technology space, there are some other grantors as well that you can explore. So I won't go through this. Government, corporate, and research and R&D grants, right? All of these are there, and this one is very underutilized. This is very underutilized most of the times. That's the sad part. And so these are some of the grantors. Okay. These are some angel investment things that we have. So what I've tried to do here is to talk about the stages. So there is a stage of investment, which is pre-seed, friends, family, and angels. This is the average amount of money. These are all in dollars, by the way, but there's an equivalent of that in India as well, just to give you a sense of how much do you do at this level, how much do you do at this level, and so on and so forth. So how much really equity you should be giving up? I think somebody asked, okay, how much should I negotiate? Typically, so if you are giving away more than that in terms of equity, then you know that you're not in a strong negotiating this thing. Is it possible for you to go a little further without raising the money? Is something that you should consider. And also, this is the utilization of these different funding. Okay. So let me pause here. Any questions on this? Separate. Well, dilution doesn't work that way. Yeah. Correct. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, so this is the dilution that happens at this stage, let us say. But when you do this dilution, these guys also get diluted. So your dilution is slightly lesser than that. Yeah. So they sit on the other side of the dilution. So it's not as much high. But yes, you're right. It continues to grow in terms of dilution. Any other question? Okay. So this is a case that my team is trying to make, where they're saying, you can have 100% of, a company that is valued at, say, 0 lakhs, 0 crores, whatever, or you can have 17% of a very big company, and then your valuation on paper, at least, is much, much higher, right? And that's the reason you are willing to take the dilution, because your company in its total valuation is growing as well, right? Does this make sense to you? So also be very cognizant of the fact that you're giving up something. When you're getting some money and you're giving up something. A lot of people take money so fast that they, and I've seen a lot of companies at the angel level or something before that, they actually are giving up 30%, 40%. So you got 60 to 70% remaining of the company. Are you able to really raise any more money? So you're locking yourself out of the later stage of investments if you're giving up too much equity in the early part, right? Okay, there you also have some valuations put in here. What does a typical valuation look like? We talked about the dilution there. This is about, and here also what is happening is, how the company's equity cap table looks like. How much is the ownership? So if there are two founders, you both own 50%, right? Then when you bring in family and friends, you may have the founders going down to 37%, 37 and 37. Your uncle owns 5%, the family who came in. And then you create an option pool, right? Option pool, because now you want the early employees who may not be getting a good salary, which they left somewhere else and came. So you want to share with them the possibility of growth with you. So if they were making, say, 30 lakhs somewhere and they're working for 10 lakhs with you, the 20 lakhs that they're giving up, they would like something to participate in the upside. That's why you create an option pool. And then once you go into a seed round, founders own even less, the uncle owns lesser than what he did earlier. And then there's the angel, and the option pool also becomes a little smaller. You see that? And then you go into Series A, where the VC is coming in, they take 33.3%, then the founders also dilute, the uncle dilutes, option pool, angel, they all dilute as well. Right? And so on and so forth. So this is like the way it works. So obviously you want to see if your 19.2% is worthwhile for you to go, is the option pool of 13.5% is substantial enough for your VP of sales, VP of engineering to be excited about coming to work every day. You need to be cognizant of that, right? Just bringing in money and giving away stocks is not the best way to do it. Okay, so then of course the promise of an IPO where you can have a much larger valuation, and therefore you get this one. The interesting thing is this: if you really have a good IPO, the public is only getting 8.3% of your this thing. They are creating for you a huge wealth, for your employees great wealth. IPO you think is you're selling all 100% of your shares. That's usually the mindset. You're only selling 8.3%, and that gets valued by the market, and immediately your valuation goes up based on that. Okay. I'm sorry? Yeah, so that's a thing. So valuation is not a science; it's an art, right? So first of all, when you are thinking of what valuation you want it to be at, one is obviously you have to see your competitors. How much have they raised money at, in this stage? So that gives you a sense of what the valuation should be. You can also look at, you can do something called DCF, discounted cash flow, and various other techniques which your CA will tell you. Those are slightly, much about regular businesses. They don't know how the future is going to look like. But anyway, you can do that. That's one way of doing it. Comparative analysis, another way. And you come up with a number. At the end of the day, when you're sitting across from an investor, it's a negotiation. Now, you have to justify your 1 million. If you're not able to justify, then you get pushed down. But you have to be able to do that. The other thing is, if you want to create a little bit of sense of competition, you don't talk to only one investor, you talk to 3 investors. So you can say, well, that investor is giving me a better deal. And these guys, if they are bluffing you, they will say, okay, sorry, we'll also take it up. But if they're bluffing you, then you know how to negotiate at least. Okay, so here, see, let's say it's a 1 million valuation that you have pre-money, as in before you take in the money, you are valuing your company at 1 million, right? The investment made is 200K. So together with this and this, your post-money valuation is 1.2, right? So what happens is the investor share is 200 out of 1200, right? 0.2 million divided by 1.2 million. So their share is 16.7%. So your share, therefore, pre raising the money, would become 84 or 83.3%, right? You understand how the math is done? So what pre-money is, before you start getting the money. Once you get in the money, it's the post-money valuation. Post-money is 1.2. Okay? So this is how the math is done. Okay. Okay, so these are some Gyan things that are there. You can read it for yourself. Pitch deck. Yeah. So one of the things that I wanted to leave you with as a takeaway is, whenever you're raising money, you have to think about what is the next step, next milestone that you want the company to get to. Just say, I want to get there. Today I have 2 customers. I want to have 20 customers. If I do 20 customers, I know my valuation will be 5 times. So I just want 20 customers. So working backwards to getting the next 18 customers, what does it take? What kind of technology enhancements do you need? What kind of team do you need? What kind of marketing do you need? People to travel, meet customers, all that stuff. What do you need? And say, this is the amount of money I need, plus maybe 20% buffer, just in case things go wrong. That's all you need at this point in time. People will say that I'm in the early stage, but I want 20 crores. No, why do you need 20 crores? You probably need only 20 lakhs to get to that next level. That way you're asking for less, giving up less, and have more to play with for the future, right? So that's the milestone-based approach, is what I recommend to most of the startups. You should actually think of what is your next step and just think about how to get there. And the other good news is, for the investors, when you reach that milestone, they're happy. Oh, you did it. You said you will do it and you've done it. So there's a certain level of trust that is built because you said what you would do and you did what you said, right? So these are some things that you put into your deck: large markets, disruption, tech data, and what are the areas in which you create competitive moats. And of course, the biggest thing for you is to show your own ability, how good founder you are, what's your ambition, how obsessed you are about doing this. Okay, this is a lot of Gyan, but I'll just leave this slide here. Then I'll open it up for questions. Why don't we have a few questions before we wrap up? Mysuru is a very engaged audience, I'm told. Ram? Yeah, go ahead. So let me just address that. So first of all, there's a very good chance, you're right, that there will be somebody building something similar in this space somewhere in the world. That's true. But at the same time, you should also know if this is something really a good market, a big market, it's good that they are doing that, because they are also validating to you that this market exists. Okay. First point. Second point is, if the market is indeed interesting, exciting, large, it will only evolve to become even larger. It could have 5 players. Aren't there enough players in every single sector that you see today? There are enough people doing, technology, Microsoft, Google, they're all doing something similar or the other, but there is enough of that market for them to continue to grow. There's no reason for them to say only one person can do this, right? And the third one for you to think about is that the startup journey is never a very easy journey. It's always somebody or the other will stumble, right? When I was doing my second startup, voice over IP startup, we had about 20 startups that are doing something similar. But somewhere along the way, one by one started making mistakes and they started going away. And then there were only 2, 3 of us left, right? So not everything goes well for everybody. Just because they're a startup doesn't mean they're going to succeed, right? Yeah. What problem? Chicken and egg problem.
And also spend acquiring, I cannot grow. So what is the good size, or what mantra should we follow? Because many people come and ask, we want investment. The question we ask is, why you need investment? They say for marketing. Marketing is purely expense. That's not investment. So
Pure expense.
yes. So as for me, it is going out of my kitty. So it's an expense for me. At least in my books till I get back. So how do we address this?
Our investee companies is to say, if you were to weigh the importance of technology versus customers, for me, customers are more important. If you know what the customers are looking for and their potential customers for whom you have 90% of the solution, building the remaining 10% is money that I spend as a way for me to generate revenue from this customer. So I would never look at customer acquisition as a expense of any kind. I would look at this as a asset creation, value creation thing for the startup. I have zero control over customer acquisition. Which customer will sign up? How much will they sign up for? For what part of what you're building they are signing up for? We have no control. But we have very much control over the technology. We can build that anyway. We'll figure out somewhere or the other we can make that happen. It's completely under our control. So if you are able to spend in creating certainty, creating predictability, creating scale in how customers are coming to you, then I think you have won the game. It's not based on technology that you will win the game. It's based on what the markets want from you that you win the game.
Immediately, that's what I feel. Okay, angels are helping out. Okay, but yeah, VCs, for them to come with their big funds, okay, they are taking a lot more time than what they used to do in 21 or whatever it is, right?
Yeah, they under invest for a while and then they pick up again. So I think as long as you have, so you saw, right, the India market is investing more and more than the rest of the ecosystem, the other countries. The only reason for that is there are good investable companies coming to them, they will invest. There is no general blanket lockdown everywhere. They will invest, and they are investing today, and they are opening up also today, because there have been exits coming in. Yeah.
Yeah.
See, a lot of the companies so far have gotten away by not necessarily going through the patent process, because its execution has really created that, competitive edge for them. So they have not done any of that, and yet they have been able to go ahead and have conversations with the investors.
Might have a fabulous idea, and he might actually develop a product around that and start talking to investors to bring that product to market. Now, if this particular idea goes out to a Wipro or to a TCS, they might actually turn it around in a matter of hours. They have deep pockets. They can actually, and they have the best of the talents, so they can actually bring it to market much faster than this poor ideator. So, how are the entrepreneurs protected?
Important thing is you have a particular product that is working with customers. That validation is very important for you to have got. So once you got it, you will be surprised that the largest of the largest companies do not necessarily have the wherewithal to do what you're doing. Not because they don't have the money, not because they don't have the people. It's just that that is not their priority. Close to us. So all of those things are possible. But until you come to a certain, I'm sure you can do on a quarter by quarter basis. To take away, say, 100K worth of contract from you and do something, they will not do that. That's not their priority. Yeah.
Hi, looking to market our product, and how much do we work towards the marketing of the product?
It's creating a demand. It's telling people that you have something and they should come and buy. So let's make sure we clarify this. So first of all, the customer discussions that you have in the early stages is not marketing. It is customer validation. You're just going talking to them, understanding if they do have this problem and in what way is the problem shaping up and how intense is this problem for which they will actually be ready to pay. That is not marketing. That is validation. Then let's say you you build the product, then you sell some of these. Then you say, okay, 2-3 customers are there. Now you know the use cases. Then you write a case study saying customer A had this problem. They were, losing so much money on a quarterly basis. Comes my startup's product and it solved this problem. Now they don't have this problem anymore and they are very happy. And that's the case study. So now you can use this case study to get the next 10, 15, 20, 100 customers. That is marketing. That is important, right? If you don't get those customers, what are you doing with your product? Yeah.
For product and service based startups.
Very different.
Yeah, we means some insights from you.
See, very risk based, right? They don't know exactly how everything is going to shape up and all that stuff. So they are taking a big risk in saying the market will be there and so on and so forth. So that is something that people are a different class of companies. So most of the work that or presentation that I've shared with you is about product funding. Services funding, on the other hand, people will fund you, but you also have cash flow now. You already are putting people on the project, you're billing, you're collecting, you're doing all these things. It's a different kind of a thing. So if people want to fund only to make you go faster and build this business, the business models are good, the margins are good, the way you're running your company is extremely good. That's when you start bringing them in, because it's a proven model. The amount of risk that people are taking is much lesser than a product.
Thank you.
Yeah. So one is obviously bringing more and more people into the angel investment community is absolutely important, and TiE can do a great job in making that happen, because there are lots of people who can see this in the newspaper, can see this from people talking to them and so on and so forth. They don't know how to be a part of this thing. So if you are able to show that to them, that will be a good start. TiE, I think, should do this across and do some education classes, workshops on how to evaluate and all that. And some of you are already angel investors. So if you take the lead in the syndicate and these people get to be part of the syndicate, you begin to have more and more money that you can bring into the funding ecosystem. The second thing is, as a trend, what we are seeing tier 2 cities are doing more and more of is to build something that they find that they are very close to solving, let's say anything in the agri-tech space or in the logistics space, in the clean tech space. A lot more of that kind of work is actually happening in tier 2 cities. The B2C, the global B2B, those are happening in the larger metros. But that's the thing that will take some time to migrate. But until that, tier 2 cities, I think, have the thing, have the key. And we saw a lot of this getting unleashed during COVID. Right after COVID, we saw a lot more tier 2 cities, being able to harness a lot more startup activity and funding activity. And there was one more question that you had.
So how do we bring more wealthy individuals to take the
So that is through the education training program. We should do a workshop. So we have under TiE something called TiE India Angels, which is led by Mahesh Rao. So he's doing a great job of bringing some great companies to us to invest in, and then those investments are in rupees. TiE Global Angels is led by folks outside of here in the US. I think Shankar Ram was very closely associated. I'm not sure if he's running it now, but he was there. Alok Prasad from Boston is doing it. So if we are looking to raise money in dollars, these are the people to talk to.
Same questions. Just to sum up what's happening in Mysore along with the TiE and then activities around startup investment, considering the first two part of the graph, grants and then the seed fund level. So probably from last 5 years, Mysore have witnessed an investment of 5 to 6 crores around the grant space and around 10 crores of investment in the early angel investment. Those are the individuals or maybe group of individuals have done that. To bring that, the culture, which has happened in Bangalore very naturally because of the vast number of the market space and as well as the angels present in the city. That is the contrast which we are seeing that. So Mysore has done that, the base part of it, but the second leg which required a push where they need a little bit of a more money and also the market size. That's why everybody is just jumping into the bigger market, and Mysore is losing the startups, moving or maybe shifting away from the Mysore itself. Maybe one of the reason is that because we are seeing that time and again, that space is, we have a huge gap. So where the culture is not built around, we are not talking about that kind of stuff. So somewhere we need to look at that, how TiE to city. Mysore may be one of the examples. Maybe other cities also having similar issues.
Generally, I think what you will also find that in Bangalore and Mysore, there is a possible synergy, right? There is a possibility that the founders make these, and we set this up when I was at TiE. We had something called Draper House. So Draper House is where you can actually, the founders would come and stay there for 2-3 days. They would just camp out in Bangalore. Come from Hyderabad, stay in Bangalore, 2-3 days, meet customers, meet investors, meet whatever. And then work really is getting done in Hyderabad. So they used to just immerse themselves there because they are the ones who actually need that immersion. But the work was happening in a place where the costs are lower, the people are much more cohesive, communicate faster, and get the product done. Maybe even the marketing people sit there because they are able to get things done much faster. But the mindset of the entrepreneurs were changing, the founders were changing because they were spending time in other cities. And now there is something called SaaS Bhoomi, by the way, which takes all the SaaS companies and puts them together regardless of where they are from. And SaaS is a very popular model of how to build companies today. So being part of that, whether you're in Mysore or whether you're in Bangalore, it doesn't matter. If you're part of SaaS Bhoomi, you are as smart or as connected as anybody else. So they are now cross-connecting organizations like that. TiE aspires to be one of those. So if you're part of TiE in Mysuru, you're as good as part of TiE Bangalore. You should be attending TiE Bangalore events as well. So you get a chance to understand what's going on. Like I related to you my thing about I was in DC, there was no TiE chapter. But just because I went to TiECon in Silicon Valley, suddenly my mindset changed. Right?
Bringing in an independent board of directors through this journey?
I think it becomes, because their name is also important, right? They're well known in the industry and so on and so forth. So for that reason, bringing people other than founders to say, I have a governance structure in place is very important.
Oh, one more last one. Any
This thing collapse in governance, that's left a lot of bad taste in lots of mouth.
Clarification between an SME and a startup. When do you call something as an SME, or when does it become a startup? Both from an investor perspective and from an entrepreneur perspective. Because I think if you are in the wrong shop, if you are an SME and trying to raise funds from a startup investor or vice versa, I don't think the story is going to progress at all. So how does one recognize that you are in the right shop?
Yeah. So, see, SMEs typically are profitable businesses, but the chances of them, becoming, very big, very fast, inorganic growth as they call it. If you give them any inorganic growth, will they become really big, very fast, and therefore create some exceptionally large valuation, multiples? Then, then we say that those are SMEs, profitable businesses doing well. They'll continue to do so. They will grow also fast, but they won't create the multiple of valuations. So that's usually the way investors look at that. VCs don't usually get excited by those kinds of things because they're willing to take large bets and at the same time also be ready to lose a lot of money in the process of doing that. So venture capitalists usually want to go into these companies that show, let's say, 10x growth in say 5 years. Most of the SMEs don't do that.
Most of the time, an entrepreneur will always think that business can grow to whatever.
And that's where the VCs come in and say, well, I don't think that's a possibility for you, so they don't want to participate. Yeah. Great. Thank you very much. It's been a great audience.
Ravi, very interesting hour or even more. I'm not sure if we did justice to the level of interaction you expected, but I think a lot of questions and we still have a bunch more, which hopefully you can take over dinner. So just to ensure that we go away with some very clear messages, I'm just trying to summarize in 1 minute what Ravi largely covered, right? One is make sure you're trying to solve a real problem and don't go to the customer after you've built a solution. The first thing to do is make sure you have adequate validation of the problem you're trying to solve so that you have anchor customers who are saying, we'll go with you when your product or solution is ready. Most important thing. Number two, if you have angels who are helping you, stay along with them. Don't take the money and say bye-bye. Harness the power of the angels because what they invest in you is probably only 1/10 or 1/25 of what they're capable of in terms of the network and the larger ecosystem connections they can bring to you. Three, I think grants as a bucket are highly underutilized. I think many startup people, after they bootstrap, they immediately start looking at angels and VCs. I think I was also talking to somebody from the government of Karnataka, and I understand more than 80% of grants all over India is underutilized. So I think there's a great opportunity there. I don't know whether there are portals today which are available, which easily tell you what grants are available for what kind of solutions you're working on. But I just saw in the newspaper yesterday that IIT Madras has come up with some very interesting data-driven, AI-enabled solutions, which gives you many of these opportunities on one single page. So I would recommend all of you go and check it out. And then finally, as you start getting more and more investments, think about how much equity you want to give up. Giving up too much equity too early can hurt you because as you really want to scale up and grow, you may not have enough equity left with you, right? So these are some of the larger things we're taking away from this session. Ravi, I don't know if I've missed anything more important. Hopefully this was justice. Thank you again, Ravi. Very, very enlightening, very enriching, and thanks for also sharing the PowerPoint with all the members. Finally, before a vote of thanks, I would request President Dr. Mahesh to just share a token of our love and affection for Ravi with a small memento, please. Yeah, all board members are welcome to just join Dr. Mahesh on the dais, please. Thank you again, audience. A small word of thanks to all of you for being engaging and encouraging the others to ask more and more questions. Also, some of the potential members, I'm assuming you've been here multiple times. If you still have reason to believe why you should join TiE, I think Ravi has convinced you. Just being here is probably the first step towards your entrepreneurial journey. And thanks to Laruchi staff and support for really making this a memorable event. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
A good job. Thank you very much. And now we have networking dinner followed by cocktails and networking dinner. Please do stay, have your dinner, and network with Ravi and talk to him. Whatever the questions which you couldn't get answered, now he will answer, but I think he will charge more. So, just joking. Thank you.